recording. And then let's go ahead with the mission statement. Helping Parents Heal is a nonprofit organization dedicated to assisting bereaved parents to become shining light parents by providing support and resources to aid in the healing process. We go a step beyond other groups by allowing the open discussion of spiritual experiences and evidence for the afterlife in a non-dogmatic way. Affiliate groups welcome everyone regardless of religious or non-religious background and allow for open dialogue. Attendance today at the Helping Parents Heal meeting is voluntary, and we are here for the benefit of learning from and sharing with other parents whose child has passed away. It is understood that our discussions are intended to be confidential and not designed to replace traditional therapy or spiritual counseling. Helping Parents Heal offers a wide variety of speakers to allow parents to be informed about many possible ways to heal, to connect with their children, and to learn about the afterlife. The views expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect those of Helping Parents Heal, and we ask that you take from their presentations whatever may benefit you personally. And so with that, let's go ahead and listen to you, Kathy, with no pressure at all. Thanks.
Oh my gosh, this is a surprise for you guys and for me, but thank you very much for the opportunity to talk with you. I really do appreciate it. I mean, like everyone else in this room, that anytime we get a chance to talk about our children and how incredible they are, we will jump at it. So thank you, Elizabeth. And I'm sorry that Susan is not here because I know that we were all looking forward to hearing from her, but I'm sure that she will come back in the future and we'll be able to enjoy what she has to say. So let me take a deep breath. Well, my name's Kathy. I know many of you. I see so many faces that I recognize, and thanks for being here. And so some of you do know my story, and thank you for sitting through it yet again. And there's quite a few people here who might not know most of it. So well, gosh, we're just like everyone else, just a normal family, and I never expected to be sitting in this seat like the rest of you. In 2013, my 15-year-old son, Aidan, passed by suicide, and that just, like you all know, I'm stating the obvious, just my world was shattered. I didn't know where to go from there. I didn't think I would make it, but I have 3 boys. And 2 of them were still here. My husband was still here, and I had to somehow get my feet back under me and be here for them. So I would say it was the very first night that Aidan came through and let us know that he was right there. He always loved the snow. My husband is a retired Marine. At the time that Aidan passed, he was actually still active duty. We had just moved back to Virginia from Okinawa, and the boys were so excited to be back in the States. They wanted snow. Aidan absolutely loved the snow. And the first night that Aidan passed, it was not in the forecast at all, but it started snowing. And my husband and I saw it at the same time. I think I was coming down the front stairs and I saw it out the front window. He was standing in the back and he saw it coming down in the back, and we both knew instantly that was Aidan's sign for us. Our souls just knew. We weren't raised to think about signs. It really hadn't been much of our day-to-day talking. It was something I had been interested in years ago, but being a mom and raising kids, you sort of let go of some things, and I really hadn't read much about the afterlife since college. But we knew, and I remember running out to the back porch and just lifting my face and letting every snowflake fall on it and just saying, thank you, Aidan, thank you, Aidan, thank you, Aidan. And just from there, he just kept showing up. It was the most amazing thing. I think probably on a weekly basis, I asked my husband, do you think I'm going crazy? Do you think I'm losing touch with reality? Because the ways that Aidan was showing up were just things that I never expected. It was about maybe a week and a half or 2 weeks after his funeral. I was sitting on my couch, and I just say staring at the TV because nothing was getting in at that point. And I, of course, in my mind, I constantly spoke to him. I constantly had an ongoing conversation with him. And as I sat there, I felt a very gentle pressure and touch right here on my face, just right here at my eyebrow, going down the side of my nose. And again, I just knew. I knew that was Aidan. And I closed my eyes and I thanked him and I thanked him. And I just said, I know you're here. And it makes so much sense that that's the way that he would let me know he was here, because it was something he used to do in life. He was a very funny kid, and he used to play with me well, first when he was probably about 2 years old, anytime he talked to me, he'd hold my face like this so that we would always make eye contact. So his hands were always on my face. And then as he got older, he would do it kidding around. I think he had seen, gosh, it was probably that movie, The Hangover, where one of the characters touches somebody's face all the time, and he does it to gross them out. And Aidan used to do that to me playing around. He'd come in the kitchen and just put his hands all over my face. And sometimes I'd play along and pretend I was grossed out. And other times I would lean into his hand and smile and tell him I loved him. And he's like, "Oh, Mom, you ruined it." And he'd walk away. So these signs he was sending, they weren't just these random things. They made sense. It was a communication. Now, I didn't know that at the time because I was still so fresh and so new at all of this. It felt very much to me like they were just random things that were dropping in. So I'm going to fast forward now. I'm trying to make sure that I'm not, oh gosh, no, I'm not going to fast forward because I have to tell you something else he does that's just absolutely amazing. He sends me A's. So from the time he learned his alphabet and knew that A stood for Aidan, he would carve his initial in furniture all over the house. I still have a chest that has a big A scratched into it. It is one of my most treasured possessions right now. So we were moving. My middle son had told us he hated his high school. And so of all the things, we feel so out of control when this happens to us. And I couldn't control anything, but that I could help, that I could control. Jack, you hate your high school? Okay, let's go, we're moving. And so we moved. We sold the house. I'm sure that there was divine intervention there because it sold so fast, and we found a house in a school district that we lived in before we moved to Okinawa. So it was such an incredible place for Jack to land because he wound up in high school with friends he had known from 3.5, 4 years ago. So he landed in such a safe place. But as we were going through the move, the movers were there, they were packing everything up, and it was very difficult. I was not married to that house. My children hadn't been raised there. We were only in that house for about a year. But any change when we are so devastated like that is very difficult, and I understand that and I appreciate that. So after the movers left and I was alone in the house by myself, I had my little breakdown and I cried and I told Aidan, "You don't stay in this house. This is not where you are. You live here now." And I kept saying that and patting my chest and saying, "You live here." And I walked into our office, and I had been through this room about 50 times. And if I had myself together, I could show you a picture of this. Somehow, whatever the movers had done, but in the pile of the carpet was a giant A. Whatever they did to move things around, there was this giant A in the carpet. And I looked down at that and I took a picture of it. I think I was only a couple of months in, but I had started taking pictures of signs that I could get pictures of because I did not want to forget a thing. And I just knew he heard me. I mean, within 5 minutes, I got a response to what I was thinking. So the next morning, we were doing a door-to-door move, and I was standing in the driveway of our new home, and I was talking to him again and saying, "Aidan, you live here with us now. You're here. We live here." And I happened to look down as the moving truck is coming down the driveway. I happened to look down into the driveway, and there were sticks that had just fallen in the shape of an A. Just these sticks, it randomly fell into the shape of an A. And I was like, "Okay, you heard me. Thank you, thank you, thank you." I have since, and I think a lot of you may have heard this, but I have since started framing these pictures of the signs that I take, and I have them hanging on wall in my bedroom, and I call it my wall of miracles. And anytime I'm having a difficult time or I'm starting to feel a little disconnected, I sit in front of that wall and I think, look at what they've done. Like, they are so here. So it's just a place for me to go and recharge. So I invite any of you to do that. If that's something that you feel led to do, just have your wall of miracles, a place for you to go. So we were in our new house for about, a month. It was 8 months almost to the day that Aidan passed. And my oldest son was away at college. His name is Connor. And we were on our way up to go see him for a football game. He went to Penn State. We were driving and we were on our way up to go see him. And we got the phone call that he had been in an accident the night before and he had fallen off of his balcony and he had passed away in the middle of the night. So we, I don't know how my husband did it, but we got back in the car. We had to pull over on the side of the highway. The police officer made sure that we were not moving in the vehicle and told us about what happened to Connor. So somehow we were able to get back in the car and make it to the next exit. And we pulled over just to try to figure out, like, what? This can't possibly happen more than once. And it was just within 8 months. So that summer, Connor had been home and he had been using our car and he had lost his college ID. And we probably pulled that car apart 3 different times. Connor went through it, I went through it, Andy went through it. We never found his college ID. He had to get a new one when he went back up to school. Well, we pulled over off the highway and got out at this McDonald's and we're hugging each other. It was Jack, Andy, and I, and we just huddled and screamed, I think. I don't even really remember. But we looked down and on the ground in between all of our feet was Connor's college ID. I mean, how does that happen? we have no idea, but I mean, we knew at that right when that happened, he's here. Connor's here, he's hugging us. We are standing in a circle of 5. There were 3 physical bodies there, but we were standing in a circle of 5 and we knew it. So these miracles continued. I mean, and that's what I call it. They were just miracles. What I've kind of started referring to it as is finding the miraculous in the mundane. I mean, we now know as parents on this journey that things that we used to take for granted, a feather that falls in front of us at just the right time, or a heart-shaped leaf, or a song that comes on the radio, just when you're talking to your child and you need an answer, that song comes on. These are things that other people might say, oh, that's a coincidence, but we know better. We know that there are no such things as coincidences. So I've started calling it finding the miraculous in the mundane. And it explodes your world open because the more you see, the more you get. So let's see now. That night, also, our family was coming in. Jack did not want to go. He didn't really want to go to sleep, but he was exhausted. And this is still the first night that Connor passed. And my family was coming down from New York. And we're a really close family. I have a brother that lives here in Virginia, a sister who used to live in New York. Now she's in Virginia, and my other brother in New York. So they were all traveling down, but Jack's really close with the cousins in New York. And he said, please wake me up when they get here, I want to see them. So that night I was checking on him probably every 15 minutes as if he were a newborn again. And I just kept going, putting my hand on his back to make sure he was breathing. And just looking and seeing if I could see his chest rise and fall. I mean, it was like he was a newborn all over again. And I was in that room probably every 15 minutes. The light in the hallway was on, so when I opened the door, I could see him. He was lying on a couch. And one of the times I went up to go check on him, I walk into the room and it was not Jack lying on the couch, but it was Connor. And there is a big difference in Jack and Connor. Jack is kind of more like my family. He's built a little more solidly. He's a little shorter. He's about 5'10". Connor was an athlete. He was tall, 6'4", and very slender. He was a track star. High jump was his love. So there was a big difference in how they looked. Connor had a very long neck where Jack was a little stockier like me. And I looked on that couch and it was Connor lying there. It was not Jack. And I would turn my head this way and it was still Connor. And I shifted over a little and turned my head that way and it's still Connor. And I'm thinking, I'm seeing things. I must be seeing things. So I stepped in even closer and it was Connor lying there. And I just went, oh, you're here. And as soon as I sucked my breath in, it all switched and it became Jack again. And he woke up and he looked at me like, what are you doing, Mom? I just said, what? Nothing. You're okay. And I left the room. What I didn't know at that point, Connor fell from quite a distance. He was on the 9th floor balcony and he fell 9 stories from his apartment. All of the damage that was done to him was, most of it was on the right-hand side. And that was the side that he showed me. And he was perfect and he was beautiful. And that's what he needed me to know in that moment of, I am perfect, Mom. I am fine. I am absolutely fine. And I needed to know that. So I could sit here and list just miracle after miracle. He brought us a dog. I now have a 140-pound Newfoundland dog. And I know it was a gift. It was that very first Christmas. It was a month after he had passed. So it was the first Christmas actually without both of them physically here. And we wanted nothing to do with any holiday. We didn't want it to be the same. So we left town and we were up at my brother's in New York and my sister-in-law could tell I was not doing very well. I think I was in the same outfit I had shown up in 4 days later. I hadn't showered. I just living on coffee. And she looked at me and she goes, you know what we need to do? We need to go pet puppies. It's like, all right. And that really spoke to me because that was something that I used to do with the boys when my husband was deployed and they would have a hard time. I would take them down to the SPCA and we would visit with the kittens and we would visit with the puppies and we would walk them and pet them. And it always brought peace to my boys. So as soon as she offered that to me, another coincidence, I don't think so. As soon as she offered that to me, I said, okay, let's go. So we went to this, now please forgive me. And I know that this is the wrong thing to do, but we went to a store that sells puppies. So sorry, anybody who hates those stores, I totally understand. I'm not a fan either, but we went and we were petting these puppies and I had the whole car ride there. I had this overwhelming urge and I kept thinking in my head, excuse my French, I'm from New York. I wanted to walk in there and say, give me the biggest effing dog you have in this place. So I went in and there was this beautiful Mastiff puppy and I started petting this dog and I became almost obsessed. So for the consecutive 3 days after that, I went back to that same store and I kept telling my husband, I don't know what's the matter with me, but I really feel like I need to get a dog. I really feel like I need to have a dog. And I think I want to use it as a therapy dog eventually when I can train it. And I'd like to help kids who are struggling because Aidan, the way he passed, we never really saw huge depression in Aidan. We knew he had anxiety. We knew he had a couple of social awkward tendencies, but so we didn't really see that coming. So I thought I could use this dog maybe to help other kids. So that's where my mind was going. The next time I went back to that store, instead of the Mastiff dog, there was this Newfoundland dog. So I thought, oh my gosh, he's so cute. So I'm petting him and my husband, God bless him, he is a saint on earth. He said to me, well, you know, I didn't get you a Christmas gift and maybe this is why. Maybe you're supposed to have this dog. So I was going back and forth between these two puppies. And in my mind, I said, okay, I'm going to get the Mastiff. They're easier to bathe. They don't have as much hair. And I knew that to go to hospitals and things, you would have to bathe the dog. I walked in, I looked at the Mastiff and I picked up the Newfoundland and I walked back to the little puppy petting room. And I said, I'm getting this dog. My husband has some questions about his pedigree. So can you pull it out? I just want to make sure that the, hip dysplasia, all of that. Well, she went and got his pedigree and opened it up. And this his name now is Ronan. His father's name is Clifford's Connor's Blue Moon. And I saw that and I burst into tears. And I said, I don't even care if the dog has hip dysplasia. This is my dog. I know I'm meant to have this dog. And then she looked down further, and just because I'm stubborn and Connor knows I need the extra push, his grandmother's name was Carissa's Connorsville. So it's like, so I'm crying, my sister-in-law's crying, her mother's crying. The poor woman selling us the puppy doesn't know what's going on. She's like, okay. So he wound up being my therapy dog. I have not used him as a therapy dog for others because he is so incredibly stubborn. he would be a nightmare in a hospital or in a big setting with a bunch of people, but he was my therapy dog. We brought him home on a New Year's Day, which I think is very telling because I know my boys were saying, choose life, Mom. You need to choose life, because I came very close to making a different choice. And I hate to say that, but I was in a really bad place. And I know that they were saying, choose life, Mom. We have more for you to do. And that just made perfect sense. As if I needed one more thing. About a week later, I was doing a lot of research on Newfoundlands, and I wanted to train this dog to pull a cart. I found a picture online while I was doing all of this research of a Newfie that was full grown, but looked exactly like the one I just brought home, lying on a couch, having a nap with a boy that looks exactly like Connor, down to the same green hooded sweatshirt that Connor would wear all the time. Same face, same long lanky legs and arms. It was unbelievable. I sent the picture to my brother, and he emailed me back and said, when did Connor ever know a Newfie? Like, he didn't. This is not Connor. This is just number 3 in the this dog is from me. This dog is from me. So they were talking to me left, right, and center. I mean, seriously. Again, I would still ask my husband, do you think I'm going crazy? And we were reading every book we could read. And I wound up going to it was in Omega, up in Rhinebeck, New York, at the Omega Center. We went to a conference on synchronicities because this is what was happening in our life and we wanted to understand it. And Dr. Schwartz was there, Eben Alexander, and his gosh, what's her name? Is it Holly Newell? Who does the music? And Suzanne Geesman.
Karen Newell, sorry. I was trying to unmute myself, but that's perfect. Yes, go ahead.
And Suzanne Geesman was there. Now, Suzanne, her books were some of the first that I read. In fact, The Priest and the Medium was one of the first books I read. I am raised Catholic, so that was really important for me to understand it from my history and my point of view. And so I glommed onto that book. And that's a book about a medium in Arlington, Virginia, which I live in Virginia now. So that was it was just incredible. And then, of course, I read her Messages of Hope and then Wolf's Story. So it was incredible that she was there. Now I'm going to embarrass myself, but that's not new. I happened to be in the bathroom and she was there, and I was like, oh, it was like seeing a movie star. It's just like, oh my God. And she just couldn't have been nicer. So God, can we get that out of the recording? So her presentation was incredible. And afterwards I had a question for her because I had something happen to me that was very, very similar to something that happened to her in Wolf's story when she saw Wolf's message, when she saw the book move. I had an experience like that when I brought my, gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm going out of sequence. Please forgive me. The Christmas of 2014, I was in church, and it was the first Sunday of Advent, and they had the Advent wreath. If anybody does not know what that is, it's a wreath that has 4 candles with a candle in the middle, and it's a countdown to Christmas. So the first week they light the first candle, and so on until Christmas Day, then they light the middle candle. It was the first Sunday, the candles were not lit. And as the priest was doing his homily, out of the corner of my eyes, I saw something flicker, so I turned my head, and the first candle of the Advent wreath was lit. And I thought to myself, I don't remember that candle being lit. And so I played my game again, and I turned my head this way and I turned my head that way, and that candle was lit. But the weird thing was, as I was staring at it, the candle behind it lit. So now there were two candles on the Advent wreath lit. I wanted to say to my husband, what's going on with those candles? But I literally couldn't. I was like stuck at just staring at them and trying to figure out, this can't be right. There must be a reflection. Something must be going on. So I kept shifting in my seat. Both those candles were lit. When the priest was done with his homily, he came down off the pulpit. And as he was on his way down, one candle went out and the other candle went out, and he went over and he lit the first candle. None of the candles had been lit. It was just something I had seen. So about 3 weeks later, I had taken my sister-in-law and my really good friend to go see a medium and an angel reader. They had never seen anything like this before. I had, because we were now, about a year and a half in, and I just wanted them to experience it. As we were there, there was a woman and her daughter sitting behind us, and I struck up a little conversation with them, and then the reading started, and I got the first reading. My brother-in-law came through, and then he brought my son Aidan through, and Aidan's whole story about how he passed by suicide came out. And as the medium was wrapping it up, she came over to hug me, and I said, "Are you sure that's all you have? I have another son in spirit." And she said, "I'm sorry. I can only give you what I get, and that's what I have for you now." And I said, "That's okay." And the whole time I had been saying to the boys, "Own those candles in the church, and then I'd know they were from you." But she never said anything, and she didn't have anything from Connor. And I was like, well, that's okay. And I was processing my whole reading, and I hadn't realized, but the girl behind me was bawling while I was getting my reading. And she was a young girl, probably about 13, 14 years old. And then they got a reading. But I wasn't listening to what they were saying to them. I was still thinking about everything Aidan had said to me, because there were some incredible validations. But as the angel reader started wrapping that one up, she said to this young girl, "You need to hug that woman in front of you whose children have passed. So when this is all over, I want you to go find a quiet corner and hug her." And I thought, holy mackerel, why? Like, you would think I would know what to say to somebody that's in grief, but I knew nothing more than anybody else. I was just as uncomfortable at that point in my journey with grief as everybody else. And I couldn't figure out what I was supposed to do to help minister to this young girl. So I started again in my head having a conversation with Aidan, and I said, "Aidan, help me out here. I mean, she's here with her mother." So I'm trying to figure this out in my head. She's here with her mother, and she was crying really hard when she found out how Aidan died. Okay, somebody in her life has passed by suicide. This is my brain working. Her dad's not here. It must be her dad. So after everything is all said and done, we go over to this corner. As soon as she gets alone with me, this poor child is crying again and just sobbing. And I just held her hands and I said, "It's okay. You don't have to tell me your story. You don't have to say anything. I can only imagine you lost somebody in the way that my son passed." And she started shaking her head no and taking big, deep breaths, and just, she got herself together, and she said, "I'm crying so hard." Sorry, I have to step back 1 second. I forgot one part of this, and as I was talking to Aidan in my head, what am I going to say to her? What am I going to say to her? I had the strangest thought. I thought it was my own thought because it was in my thought voice. It ran, and I can still remember, it came in from this side, and it said, "Tell her exactly what you would have told me." And I thought, that's the weirdest thing in the world for me to think, but I'll go with it. So now I'm talking to her, and she gets herself together, and she says, "No, I am not crying because I lost somebody that way. I'm crying because I've tried to die by suicide 3 times now." And I realized in that moment that I didn't have a weird thought. Aidan spoke to me. Those were Aidan's words. It was not my thought. It was me calling out to him saying, "I need your help." And he answered me like that. I couldn't believe it. I absolutely couldn't believe it. So I got to, in that moment, tell that girl everything I would have said to Aidan had I known he was feeling that way. I got to tell her to tell your mother everything. Don't think you're going to scare her. Don't think that you're going to horrify her, that she would move heaven and earth to save you. I know that because I would have done the same had I known my son felt that way. So it was just the most, I think it was healing for me, obviously. I hope it was healing for this child, but I also think that it was healing for Aidan. I think that he, you know, there is a purpose for us to help others. So as I was leaving, the medium pulled me aside. She said, "Hey, come here, I need to tell you something." And I said, "Okay." So I go over, and she said, "Every time before I do one of these things, I do a meditation and I hear from my guides. And quite often they will tell me something or tell me to bring something and say, you'll know who that's for when you get there." She said, "After I talked to you and I sat down, very clearly I heard my guide say, 'Give it to her, she'll understand.'" And she hands me this little Christmas stocking with an angel embroidered on it. It's a little gift baggy thing. And I open it up and out comes a candle. So the boys owned the candle. And I actually have it here in my cabinet. I'm going to show it to you. I don't know if you can see it, but it makes sense because it's the candle I saw in church. So it just is amazing what our children can do, what our children will do for us because they know we need them so badly. So now I'll fast forward and finish my story with Suzanne. I wound up asking her, I wanted to ask her about that experience. Like, what were the candles really lit, or was it just me seeing it? If I had nudged my husband, would he have seen it? And she said, no, it was just in you. Like you saw it in, most likely it was with my third eye. So that was interesting. But as soon as she found out that I had a child on the other side, and she only knew I had one at this point because I said my son, she said, I want you to call my scheduler and get on my list, and I'm going to give you a reading. And so, oh my gosh, it was like winning the lottery. I couldn't believe my luck. So later on that evening, we were watching a program at this conference. And Suzanne happened to sit down in front of my husband and I had been in these chairs all day. My back was killing me. So I had to get up and go stand against the wall because I have a bad back. And I kept, from where I was standing, I could see my husband and I could see Suzanne and watch this program. And I kept seeing Suzanne turn around and look at my husband like that. One or two, maybe three times. And I'm thinking, Andy, what are you doing? You better not be kicking her chair. You don't want to piss off the medium. Seriously, behave. So it turned out that Suzanne turned around to Andy and said, I think we're going to have to do this reading sooner rather than later because someone on the other side keeps poking at me. And that is so Connor. Connor, once he had something in his head, it had to be done right away. There was no waiting. And so she was so incredibly gracious, and we sat in this little cabin, knee to knee. She said, just come to my cabin tomorrow morning. And we sat there knee to knee, and she gave us this incredible reading. Both the boys came through. It was incredible. Just absolutely amazing. So after all of that happened, I decided, and please, you're going to have to throw up the flag at me because once I get started talking. After all of that, I decided, okay, the boys are talking to me. It's now up to me to learn their language. I need to, if they are throwing stuff out at me, I'm going to catch it. I don't want to miss a thing. So I started taking some of the, I took with a local medium here in Virginia, Celeste Woods, I took a beginning mediumship course with her. The angel reader, her name is Beth Carlton. She is absolutely amazing. I took an angel reading course with her, and I just started taking these courses, and what shocked me was not only was I hearing from my child, I was starting to hear other people's loved ones on the other side, because you have to do these practices. You have to sit with people and do readings for each other. And it was shocking to me that I was getting information from others as well, not just my children. So I don't know where to go from there. Um,
Well, tell me something. I know that you've also taken Mary Burton's class, and I
oh,
would love to hear about that and what it's done for you in terms of mediumship as well. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
and I will tell you, so automatic writing is something that has come up again and again for me. And I have done automatic writing a couple of times before, but it would be a start and a stop and a start and a stop. And I got some incredibly profound messages from each one of my boys telling me what they were doing and what we were supposed to be doing together. And both times, I had two incredible times where I said, this is me making it up because I want it so badly. Connor told me he's lining people up for to work with me, and Aidan told me he's sort of my partner, and he helps me to connect with the other side. So I said, of course, these are the things that I want, so I'm making this up. So I said to them, I said, trying to think of which sign this was, if this is true, and you both are working on the other side with me, and we are all in this together, we're working to connect people, I want you to give me a bird and a marble. I know they're the strangest things in the whole wide world to ask for. Well, I worked for a company, for this store up in another town in Virginia, and we would refurbish old furniture, and we were working on this child's desk. And it was from like the 1940s, and it was a little mini roll top desk, and all this stuff had gotten stuck back behind the roll top. So I was taking it apart, and just papers and writings and little paper dolls from the 50s were coming out. And I scooped my hand in to grab a couple of other things, and there is this beautiful white marble. And I thought, oh my God, holy moly. And I just like held it to my heart and said, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I put it in my pocket. And I said, that lady's getting everything else from her desk, but she's not getting this marble. And I marble. But then I never found a bird. And I thought, oh gosh, darn it. Well, I guess this really wasn't my marble. I think I should put it back. At that point, my sister came in the store to visit, and she loved to shop there. And she saw what I was doing, and she was like, what is all of this? And I told her the whole story, and I told her about the marble, and that I asked for a bird and a marble. She's like, what are you talking about? There's a bird right here. And it turned out on top of everything, and I totally missed it because I had an idea in my head of what I thought the bird should look like. There was a little pink duck right on top of everything. And so within 2 or 3 hours, I got my bird and marble from what I asked for from the automatic writing. And so that is one point that I like to tell people also is ask for things, like ask your kids for things, and then let go of your expectations of what it should look like, because they are always so much smarter than we are, and they come in with the most amazing things. So I've had another experience with automatic writing too, but I always let it go and I walk away from it. And I hadn't had any really great success in meditating. I'm not a good meditator at all. And Mary's course came up, and I thought, I'm going to take that. I had a great opportunity to be in the first round of it when she was just sort of testing everything out. And so I got to be in that course. And I had probably one of the most profound visits in automatic writings with my children that I have had in a very long time, if ever, where Connor showed me himself on this beach with all these other kids, just all these kids. And I know that they're all your kids. I know that it's all these people that he's meeting, and they're gathering and they're planning, and he was showing me that he was teaching them things. He was teaching them how to do the connection, and how Connor's incredible with lights. He flickers my lights all the time. And he was showing me that that's what he was doing with some of these kids who were just coming in. And then Aidan took me for a walk along the beach. Now, this was, I have my peaks and valleys. It's been 7 years for us now. But every once in a while, I'll hit a valley again, and I'll play the what if game, which is never a good game to play because it never brings me to a good place. And I had probably taken a couple of steps back, and I was having a difficult time, especially with missing what I felt like I had missed of signs from Aidan before he passed. And I had told him at one point, you're just going to have to stand in front of me and tell me it's not my fault, because I just can't see any other way around this. Well, the Sunday before I had done this automatic writing, I happened to be at church and I was saying my rosary. So I had my eyes closed. The church was empty. When I opened them, it turned, a man and his son sat down in front of me. The back of this kid's head and everything about him was the spitting image of Aidan. His hair, the way it was cut, the way he held himself. And this boy in front of me kept like adjusting his sweatshirt exactly how Aidan would adjust his sweatshirt. It's so bad that I at one point thought, how weird would it be if I just reached out and touched his hair for just a minute? That wouldn't be too creepy, would it? But so now I'm doing this automatic writing and this message comes through, but I'm pretty clairvoyant, but I'm seeing him as well. And he started saying to me, Mom, stop it. You need to stop visiting that place again. It's not your fault. And I said to him, you can't stand in front of me this way. This isn't the way I wanted it. I wanted you to really stand in front of me. It's like, now I'm thinking I'm making it up. I said, I need you to stand in front of me. And he put his hands on his hips. And he said, I just did on Sunday. Sometimes I really do need, the sledgehammer over the head to really understand what they're doing. And he was right. I asked him to stand in front of me and there was this boy standing right in front of me that looked just like Aidan. And so that's what I mean about it. It comes in a way that you just can't, you think you know what it's going to look like, but they are so much more intelligent than we are. They see things from such a different perspective than we do. And they're listening all the time. You are a beacon. Every one of you, your light is a beacon for your child. You say their name and they're right there. So I had this incredibly profound message with Mary's book, and it really got me interested in meditating again and interested in connecting with my kids again, because I had gotten so involved in taking the mediumship courses that I wasn't connecting as much with my own kids as I really want to. So it really inspired and just set that passion again for me. So if any of you want to, or you feel like maybe, should I, just do it. Get her book, see if you can get on her email list. She's just really absolutely amazing. What she and Chaz are doing is miraculous. It's giving us our voice back. It's giving our kids their voice back, and it's allowing us to keep our conversation going. And I know that all the stories I have are really, really long, and I used to apologize for that. I used to be like, okay, this is a really long story. I'm really sorry. And I stopped apologizing because I realized it's not a long story. It's a conversation. I'm telling you about a conversation I'm having with my kids, and I'll never apologize for that again. So gosh,
Oh, that's beautiful. And I just want to break in because, first of all, I am so impressed that you've done this completely impromptu. I just want to let everyone here know that even if you think that Kathy is supposed to be the speaker this evening, she's not. And you would think that from this incredible delivery that you've done. I just love hearing about Aidan and Connor. But also, I want to just ask two questions that we've got in the sidebar. Anna is asking what the difference between an angel reading and a medium reading is. Can you give her an explanation of that?
Yes, I will. So an angel reading, this, as far as I understand it and what I know from my friend Beth, who goes by B, and may I give her email address?
Of course, yes, of course. And I'll put it on the YouTube as well. So yes, go ahead and give the address and I will type it in here. So what's her address?
angelswhisperinglight.com. I believe it's a .com. I'll verify that before we get off. She's incredible. So she has had a couple of miraculous savings throughout her life. When she was first born, the doctor said she's not going to make it. The doctor said to her mother, like, this was even possible, don't get attached. She's not going to survive. And her mother and her mother's friends prayed over her, and miraculously everything turned around and she was the most healthy baby, and she went home within just a couple of days. As she got older, she had been in a terrible accident. And again, she was prayed over, and she fell into a fire and actually wound up with no scars from her burns. Then when she got even older and she was married and I believe she had her child at this point, and she had a very good job just going along in the corporate world, and she lost, I believe it was the use of her left side, and I'm sorry, I'm telling her whole story. You just asked what an angel reader was. Anyway, she started seeing angels. She was praying and saying, I need help, and there was a being of light at the foot of her bed, and this being told her, you will be healed. We have work for you to do. And ever since then, she's been seeing angels. So she does angel card readings. She gets messages from the angels and passes those messages on. So she doesn't generally get messages from your loved ones. As she progresses, I think mediumship is coming up for her, but mostly she gets messages from the angels, and she passes those messages on from the angels. And the reading I had with her was absolutely amazing. It's another really long story, so I'll come back another day and tell you that one.
Well, you're going to have to. I have to say, Donna is saying, Kathy, I so thank you. What an amazing story. You must speak more often. I absolutely loved your messages and needed them. Your boys are beautiful. I have a question as well from Jane, and she asked, what if you don't get any signs from your children? And this was before you went into all of the training that you've done, but maybe you could just reinforce and reiterate that all of our kids send us signs, definitely.
Well, I can't tell you about the signs I missed, and I know that there's 10 million of them. And I think that sort of happens because I am a very stubborn person in my own mind. So when there's things I look for. And so if you're looking for something in specific, so I know the books I read, I was like a kid in a candy store. Well, I want that sign and I want that one. And I wanted them all, like we all do. We want them all. So I wanted feathers. So all I would look for were feathers. But I was looking for feathers. It had to look like that. Feathers can come in so many different ways. You can hear a song about feathers. You can see a picture of a feather. It does not have to be a feather on the ground. So if we get it in our head that it has to be this way, they can throw 100 of them at you in another way, but this is what I was looking for. So, and I don't say that it's anybody's fault. So please don't say I'm saying you're doing it wrong, because that's absolutely not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that we need to learn how to open ourselves, and we need to learn how to see more. So I'm trying to think if there would be a way to train yourself to do that. Just to be more open, because I am sure you are getting signs. I am sure your child is right there. But if also, I want to let you know too, my kids are loud. They were loud from birth. This is kind of like me. So if your child is on the quieter side, their personalities remain with them. The signs will come in a little quieter, a little softer. So you need to take that into consideration as well, because that's also evidential. So and that's what I love about this. I can't tell you, one time I asked Connor, I wanted to smell him again. I missed his smell. I want to smell you. And you know what I smelled? His gym bag. Maybe an hour or two later, this smell came wafting through, and it was his gym bag. And it's like, you are so sarcastic. And he is sarcastic, and he was sarcastic. So their signs are very much in line with their personality. So start looking for things that are more in line with their personality.
That's beautiful. Heidi is saying, thank you so much for telling your story. It gives me so much hope. And also appreciate you reminding us to open our mind to what the signs are, which is true. And I am just typing in here, Mary Burton, the 21-day doorway, is it to I can't remember. People are asking for the name of the book as well as obviously Mary's name, but what is the name of her book? Do you remember? Or does somebody remember? It's the 21-day doorway across the veil. Yes, thank you, Kristen. Okay, so she's got it typed in there. We don't need it anymore. And Mary's name is in there as well. And Donna is saying, if I may speak to Jane, it's when grief is very heavy, it's the most difficult for us to be open. To be more open, we need to be more present, being in the moment, if that makes sense. And hope that she, of course, I don't mind that at all. That's wonderful. And it is true that when we have deep grief, it's almost as though we have blinders over our eyes, I think. And it makes it a lot harder for our kids to be able to communicate with us. And as hard as they do, they send those signs all the time. And it's really funny because Lavon Wells just put on her Twitter today, or on her Instagram, stop asking for signs if you don't acknowledge them, which is true. I mean, it's important that we realize that they are working just as hard as we are to get those signs to us. And if we're asking for signs, we need to open our minds as much as we can to the fact that they are going to be working as hard as they can to get those signs to us. So I love the fact that you are recognizing that if you're asking for a feather, it can come in lots of different ways. It doesn't have to just come as a physical big feather either. It could be a smaller one. And so, but it could be a picture, and it could be in a song. So that's beautiful.
It can be a story you walk by too, or it could be a leaf that maybe has deteriorated and looks like a feather. There's so many ways it can happen.
Well, exactly. And this has brought us to exactly the hour. And I am just so thankful to you, Kathy. What a great job you did. Thank you so much. And I know everyone on here feels the same way. This was just one of the most beautiful presentations we've had so far. And so anyway, thank you very, very much. And obviously, oh, you want to say something else? Go ahead.
Just if I may, and it's really, really small, and I just started it, but I do have a blog that I've just started called heaveninmyheart.com. I think I've only got 3 entries so far, but it's just more of what I've talked about today, and hopefully it will grow from there. But if you feel like it, if you feel moved, just go on and check it out.
That's wonderful. And I also want to remind everyone that Irene and Kathy have this wonderful chat every Tuesday afternoon. So you are all welcome to join that. And I know that they have the most healing sessions when they're talking to everyone. So if you are wanting to be able to talk to somebody in person, well, by Zoom in person, then please join them on Tuesday afternoons. And that invitation is on Helping Parents Heal. But in any case, I truly appreciate you speaking, Kathy. This was beautiful. And tomorrow night we have Jennifer Farmer, and I will definitely be on the phone confirming that, making sure that she's actually going to be here so I don't have to pick on somebody else tonight, tomorrow night. But anyway, let's go ahead and everyone unmute yourself and say thank you and goodbye to Kathy. And I'm so glad everybody was here.
Thank you so much, Kathy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Beautiful.
Kathy,
Thank
candle
you.
story.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank